and start sharing. Yes. Okay, so thanks for joining tonight and taking the time out on this glorious night. It's quite warm and sticky, so I know that I would rather be in the beer garden, so hope probably some of you will be wishing that throughout this talk. So I'm going to try and talk to you and give you my experience and my views on what is required for a successful transformation and delivery of that. Those people that know me have had the pleasure or not the pleasure of knowing me, know that I am someone that likes to use analogies and do things in a slightly cheesy way. And I've tried to do that again with this talk. So what I've tried to do is look at what I think is a healthy transformation. So vitamins are healthy. So I've tried to link things to a vitamin. So who am I and what the hell am I on about? So I, first and foremost, am a dad of 2 boys, and I'm a husband to a wife that, as you can see from that picture there, I am punching well above my weight in this class. Don't know how I've managed to do that, but that's life. Sometimes you fall on your feet. And my career to date, so if anyone was on the call earlier, I was speaking to Kathleen just a bit about how long I've been in IT and worked in and around IT, and it's about 19 years. But I first started off working in an Irish bar. I was a barman and landlord at the age of 21 for O'Neill's Irish Bars. Had a great time, but then realised I probably needed to grow up rather than shaving shamrocks into the side of my head and other people's head on St. Patrick's Day. And I joined the Covéa Insurance in Manchester. And those people might be able to tell that I'm not from Manchester. My accent is from the other end of the East Lancs. So I had quite an enjoyable time at the Co-op, spent 15 years there. Started on the telephones, selling insurance and mortgages, and then moved into IT, first line support, and then all the way through sort of support side and project delivery. And my last role at the Co-op was around separation of insurance and bank and looking at the services that needed to be separated. From there, I moved to Step Change Debt Charity, for people who have heard of that. It's UK's biggest debt charity based in Leeds. I joined there as a systems analysis manager, again, working in analysis and in the IT function, making sure that we're delivering the right things in the right way. And then BPDTS. BPDTS, for those who, the acronym that just rolls off the tongue, that's a digital transformation arm of the Department of Work and Pensions. So if anyone doesn't know, it stands for something that I don't know either. No, it's Business and Pensions Digital Transformation Services, or Benefits and Pensions, sorry. And left there, and in October last year, I joined Covéa. I'm part, as Tasha said, I'm part of a tech engineering function, tech engineering manager in Covéa Digital. In each of those areas and each of those roles, I have been involved in transformation. In the Co-op, probably 2 or 3 transformations with the mergers and acquisitions and separations as well. So what the hell am I on about? So as I said, I like to do things in a little bit cheesy analogy way. So the transformation vitamin, I think, is vitamin C. And as you'll see, pardon the pun, as you'll realise as we go through, everything that I've put on this begins with the letter C. So bear with me. So first thing, in order to have a healthy transformation, in my opinion, is clarity of vision. So what are we doing this transformation for? What is it there to enable? And do we all understand what we're there to do? And at the heart of every transformation, you can't forget your customers. There's no point doing a transformation if you're going to impact that customer journey or deliver something that your customers are not wanting or needing. So you must have some UX information to drive that. Go out and find what is the pain points for your customers. What could you do better? How can you deliver that? And make that part of your transformation journey, a key part of that transformation journey. But also your colleagues, when you're doing a transformation within a business, it's important to understand that your colleagues are on this journey with you. They're the people that are helping you deliver that. And invariably, if you're doing transformation work, they're going to be impacted in some way in delivering that transformation. They may have a change of role. They may be, working flat out to get things done. They may need to be upskilled. They may not be aware of the amount of change going on and how that's going to directly impact them. And even people that work in change and have worked in change for many years don't like change. Not many people react well to it. Some people fear it. And you've got to make sure that your colleagues understand and are clear on what's there. And that comes from that clarity. Understanding your capability to deliver that change and that transformation. So this isn't just about the skills of your colleagues and making sure they've got the right skills and resources available to them, but it's also about your technology and are you capable of delivering that on your current infrastructure, or do you need to change your infrastructure? And how do you do that, and making sure that you're aware of all those capabilities that are required. I'm not talking about a waterfall transformation. I'm talking about understanding your baseline and where you are. And you can adapt those capabilities and flex them as you go through. But you must be committed. Transformation is not an easy thing to deliver. Invariably, it will go wrong at some stage, and it will seem like the world is never going to be ready and your transformation is never going to deliver in time. But you need to stick to that goal, to stick to that vision, and be committed, and making sure that all your colleagues are committed to delivering that at the same time. One way to do that is to make sure you've got an effective communication strategy. Communication is key in transformation, not just to your stakeholders and the exec board, but also making sure that everyone knows where you're up to, making sure it's clear. And even if it's bad news, communication is key. So if you've made a mistake, communicate that we've gone down this route. It's not the right thing. We're going to have to readdress this and go this way. But make sure you communicate all that through. And collaborate. Too often, these are things that don't happen. So communication isn't collaboration. Collaboration is speaking to people and working with people. Communication could be a comms cascade. But making sure that it's not a business-driven transformation, it's not an IT-driven transformation, it is a collaborative transformation. Understanding that your systems will change, your business processes will change, some routines and some jobs will change, and making sure that everyone is working together to drive to that clear goal. And that's going to take courage. Courage to make changes, courage to make tough choices. Not just personal choices, but business choices as well. So it may be that you're going to stop a venture because you're not ready to do that, or rather than just do a simple thing, you're going to go for that gold standard, and you're going to have that cojones is another word that starts with C. Have the cojones to make that change and have that courage to drive that ambition through. Costs. This is not just the third party. If you're going to work with a third party to deliver your transformation, it's not just those costs, but it's all the costs that come with making that change. It's the hidden cost, the investment in people, the upskilling, the time, the management. There may be attrition and HR costs. There may be extra resource needs to bring in. So all those things need to be factored in. There's no strangeness that we have a project cost code and cost codes when we do transformation and transformation arms, and it's making sure that they are clear, they are understood. And if you can't make them clear and understood, then the benefits of your transformation will probably be eradicated or worn down. So if you can stick to your costs and control your costs, It can also drive innovation. If you know you're not, very good lean processes, is sticking and doing what you can do within a certain amount of expenditure. And finally, my one that I love the most, and that's why I've underlined it, is the culture. So if you communicate, if you engage with your colleagues, if you collaborate with the business and the IT, and if you're clear and you make the changes and the environment in order to deliver that transformation, that means your culture is helping you and enabling you to deliver the transformation. If you're not communicating, if you're not collaborating, and things are hidden and not shared, then your culture is the thing that's going to stop you delivering your transformation. It's important, and I would say imperative, that if your culture isn't right and you are not ready, then do not embark on that transformational journey, because the wheels will fall off quite quickly. Make sure that you've got those foundations of culture and communication, collaboration, and clarity of journey up front and nailed on, because they are the key things, I would say, are the things that I've seen enable transformation to go well, and also the things that have stopped transformation going well, because the culture wasn't in the right set and maturity level in order to have that collaboration and communication and clarity of vision, and that derailed. I've seen that, unfortunately, a couple of times in my journey, but the times that I've seen culture being nailed and made sure it's right are the times where we have done. So I've been involved in successful collaboration, even if I put my teeth in, and transformation. So that, you'll be glad to hear, is the end of my slides. So I will open the floor up to any questions that people might have.
Thank you. Yeah, if anyone wants to ask a question, you're free to come off mute, or you can type in the chat box.
A stunned silence.
Hi, Paul, it's Ziggy. I've got a question for you.
Hi, Ziggy. Yeah, fire away.
So, how all these years that you've gone through, which one do you think is the most important? If you were gonna say, is one that stands out for you?
Apart from the culture, if
Yeah.
I was to take, I think is that the communication strategy is making sure that the communication is in place, and because that enables that collaboration and the clarity of the goals to be driven. So making sure that you've got that and you stick to it, even if it's bad news, is very important for me.
Cool, thank you.
Couple of questions from Kathleen in the chat, Paul. So first one, how did you help create clarity, and how do you know if everyone is on the same page?
So I think a good thing to help create clarity is that stakeholder engagement and collaboration. So making sure that as you set off, you know why you're setting off, and challenging that that vision right at the very start, and making sure everyone is aware. There's loads of different ways you can do this. You can have a charter that people sign up to, and you make that visible, and give people chance to input into that vision as well, and making sure that, if and when you deliver change, everyone probably on this call has been involved or helped deliver change at some stage. If you do change to people, they will normally resist it. If you involve them in the change and give them a voice and help them feel part of that change, then invariably they will help you drive that change and that culture. So engage with people and give them the space. How do you know everyone's in the same page? You can do things like health checks, anonymous surveys as you're going through. We do them in Scrum with retrospectives. There's all that information and rich data that's out there. You can use that and to make sure that people are on the same page. Does that answer the question, Kathleen?
Yes, thank you.
Another question in the chat. So execs usually talk a good game regarding culture, but in your experience, do they bring the people along? And do those people believe it, e.g. even bad news has to be reported?
Yeah, it's always a good challenge. I think, yeah, culture is one of those things that at a certain level, you know, it can be talked about, and that's when it will invariably fail. You need everyone in that organization to be bought into that culture, and that's why you need to make sure it's right, from execs right down to the new starters that come in. They need to be bought in and aware of that culture. And if bad news is reported, you know, bad news is just an understanding that you've done something wrong, or you've gone down the wrong route. It's how you then bounce back from that. One person, Sam, is one of my 10 colleagues at Covéa Digital, told me the other day a good Rocky quote: "It's not how hard you hit, it's how hard you get hit and then get back up to take more." And that's what bad news is. So bad news in transformation is just a small setback. It's just how you respond to that and move forward. It's part of the courage, I'd say. Does that answer that, David?
Yeah. I mean, it was basically to provoke a bit of a discussion, really, because last place I was at, there was a very strong push from the board to change the culture, and then within the transformation area, an even stronger push to bring it into a much more agile way of working. Mm-hmm. But people still found it quite difficult to just let go, and, you know, in an agile world, get things wrong so you can learn from your mistakes and go on. I don't think there was a real belief that if you got things wrong, that wouldn't be counted against you when it came to your quarterly or annual appraisals.
Yeah, and I think, you know, Agile's been around for many years now, but it's still something that is seen, you know, sometimes as the silver bullet, unfortunately. And if you do a digital transformation or a transformation and you do it agile, you're bound to succeed, because that's what it's all about. And it's not about that. It's about making sure that, you know, I heard a really good quote the other day about, it's all very well saying we're agile and we're empowered to deliver this change, but are we enabled to be empowered? Do we have the right information to empower us, and the right scope and the right balances and metrics in order for us to deliver? And in that empowerment, there's no point in saying you're empowered, but you only know half the story, because you're not going to deliver the right thing at the end of that time. So yeah, I think it is a challenge, but the most successful transformations are when everyone gets on board. And the bad news, yeah, I think everyone fears for that appraisal and performance reviews, and maybe that's something that needs to change in order to deliver the transformation as well in that organization at that time. You know, you should be evaluated on how you're doing your job and your values and your behaviors and how you demonstrate those, rather than maybe a milestone or a project plan or something along that line. So there's different ways you can tackle that, and I think you've got to understand your organization as well, David, to be able to tailor that. What are the expectations and the understanding of the execs or the powers that be, and do they understand the reason that we're doing this transformation? Are they bought into that vision? Do they understand and are they committed to doing that, or is it one thing that they're doing because everybody else around seems to be doing a digital transformation at that time?
Yeah, my observations were that until key sponsors actually participated in quite a lot of the activities from day one,
yeah,
they really didn't get what they were actually pushing as a message. So they could see it written down on paper, they could see it as an abstract concept, but it wasn't until they actually sat in a room with a bunch of people pointing at whiteboards and putting post-it pads up that they really understood that it wasn't just people trying to pull the wool over their eyes with the next great thing. It was actually significantly better at moving things along in a way that was more likely to deliver what sponsors wanted, rather than sponsors wanted this on Monday, but that's because they didn't know on Monday what that actually was, and by Friday they changed their mind, but they couldn't. They had no process to go back and re-look at what it was they were going to do. But if they got involved from day one, then it tended to have make a big difference.
Yeah.
You're still on mute, Paul.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the things that I would say is, about that clarity, and there's a good process in Lean around Gemba. So walk the walk and actually get down and understand the job that people are having to do in order to make sure that you understand the impacts and the challenges that you've got, but also then making sure that your customer view and that UX data and information is there, so they understand why we're doing this transformation and what value it will add. Get them involved, get them in the workshops, get them out onto the, if it's a contact center based change that you're doing, get them out into the contact center and get them to sit for an hour with one of the agents and get them to see how they do their job and the challenges that they've got, and how that transformation will enable them to do a better job and deliver a better customer service. Definitely.
Great. Another one that's come up in the chat. So has COVID challenged any of your Cs more so now than previous transformations you've been involved in?
Nice one, Paul. Using a C for COVID, I like it. You've bought into my transformation vitamin already. I like that one. So yeah, I think COVID brings its own challenges, but it also pushes your focus a little bit more onto some of the C's from there. So COVID will highlight where your communication strategy isn't working properly. It will highlight where your culture maybe isn't as good as you thought it was, and it will also, with the likes of Zoom calls, it will test your capability to carry on and continue delivering in that way. So it may force you to redress and understand some of those challenges in order to make sure you're moving forward. So yeah, I think COVID has definitely impacted, but it gives you the chance to rise to that challenge as well. So rather than see it as something that could slow you down, it could be an enabler to get the culture working better, to get collaboration working better, to put the tools in place to make sure that you've got those things, because you need to communicate better to make sure that a distributed workforce is all still pushing to that same goal. Does that answer your question, Paul?
Yeah, that's brilliant, Paul. I think that's you hit the mark there, from the tools, the communication, mood boards, seeing how people are feeling, etc. When maybe you might not actually be able to see them because broadband constraints and all those kind of things. So yeah, I completely agree.
Cheers, Paul.
Great. Any more questions from anyone? Either use the chat or you can just shout out. It's up to you.
Yeah, hi guys. I've got one quick question for Paul. It's John Barnes, and for
hi, John.
Hi, mate. Full disclosure for everyone on the call. I didn't actually play for Liverpool.
That's a shame, because I'm a Liverpool fan, and you were my hero, John. Have just ruined it for me.
Yeah, I should have said that I did and didn't put myself on mute. Apologies, my internet connection's a bit cagey, so maybe you've covered this already. But look, digital transformation is obviously, it's not only complex, right? But it's by its very nature, it introduces exceptional amounts of change. So how are you going about ensuring that your people and your colleagues and managers and direct reports share the same vision that not only you do, but maybe your wider team does? And how do you bring them on the journey with you? That'd be really interesting to understand.
Yeah, I think it comes down to that, making sure that, for new starters, for existing colleagues, they all understand why we're on this journey. And if they're not involved in it, then give them the opportunity to be involved if they can be. So, There's another dreaded C that I'm sometimes a fan of, but sometimes really not, and that's Confluence. It's a tool where, if used correctly, can be a great communication and collaboration space for document sharing, but also it can be a place where documentation and communication dies if not used in the right way. So you can sometimes say, oh yeah, it's on Confluence, but it's like sometimes trying to find a needle in a haystack. So making sure that if you are using a tool like that it's easy to accessible. So you only got 3 clicks or 3 searches to get to the information that you need. There's a clear landing page. So I think, in short, it's about that clarity. It's about communicating. It's about touching base and making sure people understand where we are, what we're doing, and why we're doing that. And being open to challenge. If you bring a new area in, during your transformation, and you thought you were going in the right direction, and a new view comes in from a different area that challenges that view and challenges that goal that you've got, then don't be afraid. Have the courage to take that challenge on and assess it against your vision. And does it change your vision? Does it enhance your vision in a way that you hadn't thought about before? So making sure that people feel they can challenge and they can contribute comes back down to that culture, making sure that it's open, it's honest, it welcomes challenge, it welcomes change. Does that answer it, John?
Yeah, that's really good, actually, and I would agree with you on a lot of that. Absolutely, it's interesting, actually. I mean, the whole COVID thing, right? Back to the dreaded C, it has really encouraged that collaboration. Certainly for me, more so actually than being in an office. I suppose it's a bit strange, really. I think people are a bit more caring as well. There's another word for you, but that's really useful and really helpful. Good to hear. Thank you.
I was so tempted to say you've got to hold and give and do it at the right time. You can't be slow or fast, but you must get to the line, just in case.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to sing it, actually, but I'll save it now.
Paul, it's Tony. Can you hear me all right?
Hey, Tony. Yeah, I can hear you, mate.
Yeah, so good, thanks. Good, thank you. Really rather warm. It's good. It's good,
Yeah.
Enjoying. Question from me is, sometimes the digital transformations can become obviously quite lengthy endeavours. None of these things are fast. Sometimes fast things happen, but they're often long-lived things. What's your number one tip to keeping your vitamin cupboard, so to speak, stocked and healthy?
I think that's the to keep your vitamins stocked and healthy. I like it's taking a whole new thing. This. So I think it's around making sure that your colleagues are well and they believe in it, so they're healthy. They still believe in the change. We're still delivering. They're still committed. And doing that via like regular health checks, doing that by regular communication events. It is a long and drawn out thing, and arguably once you start on a transformational journey and you set out in the right direction, you will probably never deliver that transformation, because you will continually take that customer feedback and your colleague feedback and look at how your marketplace and your competitors are doing. So you will constantly then evolve, but transformation should give you the ability to be able to deliver that change and for your colleagues to be used to delivering change in that way. So I think for me, it's around making sure, sense check, communication, making sure that people feel that they can sway and change the direction in there. So I'm making sure that you're aware that it's like a vision statement and a mission statement. One of them you're never going to hit. It's an aspirational, and digital transformation does tend to be an aspirational state where you're enabled to do all these things, and you're constantly going to be going through that journey. So it's not a project that's going to deliver in 18 months to 2.5 years. It's a journey that you embark upon, and you'll very rarely see the end of at your time at that company unless you stay for a long time. Does that answer your question, Tony?
It does, yeah. Cool, thank you.
Anybody else, or have you had enough medicine from me today?
It's Martin Huckle here. I've got a quick question for you in terms of, so sometimes when you go into a digital transformation situation, you're going to tell someone that their current system is got to be replaced because it's not fit for purpose. And that can lead to having someone who's invested a lot of time in that, I guess, resisting the change. How do you deal with that kind of situation?
I think that's one of those go down to the courage thing. That's a courageous conversation that you've got to have, but you've got to get them bought into that change. So you're not telling them that the investment they've put in that system was wrong. It's that we're moving in a different direction, and the knowledge and the understanding that they've got of that system is invaluable to making sure that your transformation is delivered in the right way going forward. So it's not focusing on that that legacy or that system needs to change and you're responsible because you haven't built it in the right way. It's around your process and things are moving on and evolving, and your knowledge and understanding of how we migrate away from that is invaluable and to making us a successful transformation from that way. So I think it's a tricky one, and you've got to understand that colleagues or that business area's desires and why they're in that situation. And you've got to be respectful of that as well. You know, you can't go in like an elephant and say this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. You've got to have some compassion for your colleagues and the people that have invested that time and effort to get to the business to where they are today. But realize that they're the people that are going to enable you to deliver transformation successfully as well. So you need to bring them along.
Yeah, that's great. I'm glad you brought compassion in there as another C as well.
It's almost like I've got a dictionary just stuck on C. I told you I was cheesy. That also starts with C. Any more? Oh, I think we might have a question there.
Yeah, we've got one from Michael. So, in some instances, the word transformation is interpreted as complex, multi-year, distracting, and associated with risk. What other strategies or approaches have you used to maintain momentum, focus, and delivery of the benefit case?
Wow. Good question, Michael. I wish I'd wrapped the call up on my Wi-Fi had dropped. So yeah, it is. And I think that's around your culture. So if it's seen as a complex multi-year distraction with a lot of risk, that's because you're maybe not in the right mindset in order to deliver transformation. It should be about the opportunity and the capabilities that you're going to deliver going forward. So making sure that benefit case is there because you understand the customer drivers and also the operational and infrastructure costs mean that you can make sure you deliver your benefit case and you focus on that, and making sure that people understand that as well, that are involved in that transformational journey, that these are the reasons that we've got to do this. Break it down into chunks. You know, we can't deliver everything in this amount of time, but realistically we can deliver this by then, and then slowly grow that momentum and how we're going to deliver that. If you give, you know, it's that whole how do you eat the elephant? Well, you don't just stick it on a spit roast and hope for the best. You know, you chop it up into chunks that you can eat, and you put the rest in the freezer if you've got a big enough freezer, and then you bring them out when you're ready. You got to deliver that cadence, another C, and that momentum, and then making sure that you communicate when that may be going a little bit, and have the courage to own up to when that's going a little bit wrong as well. No one ever got sacked for doing the wrong job. You know, they got sacked because they were in the wrong environment that time. I remember a story around someone that made £110 million error at a big US company because they floated the shares and they invested in the wrong thing. They went into their manager expecting, obviously, the big P45, fired, never work in this industry again. But the manager turned around to them and said, "Why would I get rid of you? I've just spent 110 million pounds of this company's money teaching you the most valuable lesson of your life. You will never make that mistake again. And that's because his culture was there to make sure that the people that he trusted and he believed in, if they made a mistake, yes, they made a mistake, but it's if you make that mistake every week and you make that mistake every year, then you'll end up on the scrap heap. But if you learn from that and you see the value of learning from that mistake and you can articulate that, then you'll be able to do that. Does that answer that, Michael?
It does. Thank you. Really helpful.
No problem. Cheers, Michael.
Great. Any more?
Gonna let me off the hook and go to the beer garden.
Okay, right. I think that's it then. I think we can wrap it up there. So just a huge thank you to Paul for that session. Some really good questions as well. So thanks everyone for joining. Paul, I'll leave you to say some last words. But yeah, that's it. Thanks for joining, guys.
Yeah, just iterate what Tash said. Thank you very much for joining, and thank you for listening to a crazy man talk about vitamin C and transformation. Tasha will share these slides afterwards, so if anyone wants them, then please feel free. And if anyone's got any questions that they didn't feel they could ask, or they go away and ruminate and reflect on it, then please connect to me on LinkedIn, and I'll happily answer any questions on there as well. Go out, enjoy the sun, enjoy the heat. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.